Good day, Crime Talk aficionados. My name is Scott Reisch, and this is Crime Talk, the most fact-driven, unbiased, true crime channel on YouTube. Thanks for watching. Let's get straight to the docket. First, people are convinced they see the ghost of Chris Watts' daughter in the new documentary on Netflix. Let me solve that mystery for you. Second, Scott Peterson finds out what plans the district attorney has for him. Third, the Dulos home is for sale. Fourth, a federal police officer arrested, and wait till you hear this. Fifth, remember that Supreme Court ruling regarding federal jurisdiction and state jurisdiction in Oklahoma? The ramifications. 6, subscriber questions. And finally, our dumb criminal contestant of the day and our winner from last week. Let's talk about it. Good day, Crime Talk aficionados. My name is Scott Reisch, and this is Crime Talk. Thanks for watching. Now, first, before we get started, I want to thank each and every one of you. Why, you may ask? Well, we just went over 150,000 subscribers. Now, that may not seem like that big of a deal, but we've been working on it pretty hard here for the last 2 years, and the fact that we got there, well, it couldn't be done without you. So thank you very much. So we were a little curious. How many people get over 100,000, let alone 150,000? So like I said, there are 31 million YouTube channels out there. And we looked it up, and according to Tubix, around 160,000 of those 31 million channels have over 100,000 subscribers. Thank you for watching. We will continue to try to bring you relevant material on a daily basis regarding crime, bringing it from our perspective of a practicing criminal defense attorney for over 25 years. Thank you again. First on the docket, people are convinced that they see the ghost of Chris Watts' daughter in the new Netflix documentary. Since its release on September 30th of this year, American Murder: The Family Next Door has become one of the most watched new shows on Netflix. At least some of it is owed to the captivating documentary that it is, but more importantly in its popularity is because of the events that transpired. Now, obviously, these events continue to fascinate people because this took place over 2 years ago. Well, now the buzz is going on, apparently, that the viewers swear that they can see the ghost of Chris Watts' daughter in the background of a scene, and the image is giving people some serious chills. So as you know, here at Crime Talk, we like to deal with facts. We like to deal with the law, not speculation. But since this is Halloween, we thought we'd play along, but the reality of it is we have solved the mystery. Now, as you know, in all of our playlists relating to the Chris Watts case, the body cam images are on our website. The body cam footage taken the day that Shanann and her kids disappeared, that is the one that is causing all this paranormal buzz. Now, it was recorded by the officer who responded to the call from Shanann's friend, Nicole Atkinson. Now, this took place on August 13th of 2018. Atkinson's had dropped off her friend at 2 a.m. that day, and the pair had returned from a business trip. And after she failed to hear from Shanann later that morning, she got a terrible feeling that something was wrong. Her instincts obviously proved to be correct. When Atkinson's called the police to request a welfare check at the Watts home in Fredericks, Colorado, before she knew it, she was wandering through Shanann's home looking for clues, and Chris was acting strange. Now, at one point in the video, Atkinson finds Shanann's phone and hands it to Chris, who turns it on while shifting nervously as he stands there in the loft. Now, you can see here from this little clip, which was meant to highlight Watts' strange behavior in the moments after his wife was discovered missing. But some very observant people, viewers at home, also revealed something that they thought was curious. Some viewers claim that they've spotted Bella's ghost in the background. Now, it may be hard to catch on the first watch, but several videos have been uploaded pointing out what they believe to be the image of the young girl playing in her room. You can see here in the circles, this clip zeroes in on the, quote, paranormal ghost, which is allegedly on the left-hand side of the frame for viewers who might otherwise miss it. We can try to view in, but because the blurry image of the footage and the fact that the ghost is pictured in the distance is quite impossible to say for sure that exactly what the image is. In fact, it may very well be nothing. Still, it appears to be a small girl. Now, obviously, we know at this time both Shanann and the children were deceased, so we know it's not the children. Needless to say, everyone is talking about the ghost in the Watts house. Well, let me show you who we think it is. Take a look at this that shows Nicole standing outside holding a small child. At one point in the video, it also appears as Nicole goes into the back room and is looking around. There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. We have solved the mystery. People have spent, obviously, hours and days trying to promote this little mystery, and boom, just like that, facts have taken it down. Hate to be the killjoy here, but we like to deal with facts. Mystery solved. Let me know if you think I'm wrong. Next on the docket, Scott Peterson. Remember that guy? That's right. Convicted of crimes back in 2014, not related to his wife and unborn child. Well, guess what? He's getting a new trial, at least on the death penalty phase of the case. And Mr. Scott Peterson appeared in court Friday. Now, the judge still has to consider whether to throw out Peterson's entire murder conviction in these post-conviction relief matters due to juror misconduct. However, the district attorney announced in court that the prosecutors will retry the penalty phase of the Scott Peterson case because they have to. If not, it just becomes a life without the possibility of a parole sentence. Scott Peterson appeared via video for the hearing on Friday from San Quentin Prison, and he really didn't talk much, and they agreed that the matter would be set over until November 6th. That'll give Mr. Peterson enough time to consult with his counsel and try to decide whether they should put off the penalty phase until and if the court decides to throw out the entire conviction, not just the penalty phase, because of this alleged juror misconduct. Now, the trial court was ordered by the California Supreme Court to hold a hearing and reevaluate to see if the juror misconduct that which was alleged, which was basically somebody trying to get on a jury and fail to disclose information relevant to legal actions very similar to the Peterson case in which the jury she was trying to get on, was basically resulted in an unfair trial for Scott Peterson, or whether it's no big deal. Seems to make sense to do that hearing first and then deal with the death penalty case. It sounds like the defense actually may have a shot here, given the guidance from the California Supreme Court. Clearly what the court was saying was that we're concerned, go back and develop a further record so that we can decide whether it resulted in an unfair trial for Scott Peterson or it's not any big deal. But develop the record first, because the appellate record is only made up of what's done and on the record in the court proceedings. We'll continue to follow this case. Obviously, it was a big case back in 2004. It's going to be a big case again if he gets a whole new trial. Quick recess. Now, I get to see the numbers of the people that go to CrimeTalkSearch.com, and they always skyrocket after the weekend. And what I think what happens is that people go out, they meet somebody, they like them, but they're not sure they know enough information about them. So what do? They go to CrimeTalkSearch.com, sign up for a background subscription service, which I urge you all to do. Yes, there is a nominal fee involved, but guess what? Once you pay that fee, you can anonymously search as many people as you want, and in that report that is generated after a search of millions and millions of public records, you will know phone numbers associated with the person you're searching, email addresses, social media pages, as well as everything related to criminal history, bankruptcy records, property records, divorce records, all the things you want to know about people that maybe you've met over the weekend. So go to CrimeTalkSearch.com, sign up today. You'll be absolutely happy you did. Well, take a look at this beautiful residence. That's right. For a cool $1.75 million, you can own it. And if you want the rugs and kitchen items, they'll be auctioned off so you can get those as well. But this is the luxury home in Farmington, Connecticut, owned by Fotis and Jennifer Dulos. This was the home where the Duloses raised their family before obviously a bitter divorce, her mysterious disappearance, and ultimately Mr. Dulos' ultimate demise. It is a mere 10,396 square foot house with 6 bedrooms. The administrator of the estate obviously has to acquire all the property and sell it for the benefit of the recipients of the property under the will. Now, the administrator has found lots of other things, obviously, other than the house, which is quite easy. He's apparently found secret safe deposit boxes containing gold doubloons, a Tiffany ring worth about $3,000, and a ton of exercise equipment at various locations. As we talked about last week, the court handling the estate administration is deferring on a motion to have Jennifer Dulos declared legally deceased. Obviously, the reason why the court is asking to declare her deceased is people believe that she is in fact deceased. That's why there was a murder charge. There's still the question of the fact that no remains have ever been found and no confession as to where she may be, or to the fact that she's actually deceased. However, I think common sense would dictate, I don't think the mother of 5 ran away, which was the Fotis Dulos' theory at one point, the gone girl theory. But the court also needs to establish, and it's important, as to who receives the estate, as to who dies first. The reason why having her deceased early may actually dictate where the assets of the Fotis and Jennifer Dulos' estate goes. If they had separate wills, they could list different beneficiaries. And depending on who is declared deceased first could dictate who is the beneficiaries under their wills. That assumes they don't go to their spouse and then to the children. Lots of interesting questions most people don't necessarily think about. And as noted, you can get everything that was inside, from TVs to Legos, as well as a record collection valued about $40,000 at an online auction. It's a sad case, the Dulos matter. It's unfortunate that Jennifer Dulos was in fact never found. Next on the docket, a federal police officer has been charged, and wait till you hear what he's been charged with. Now, we have a lot of respect for police officers. Frankly, police officers have helped me have a very good living over the last 25 years. And I'm telling you, some of the best police officers out there are very, very fine people. Like all professions, there's some real dirtbags out there. You can find them in any profession. All right. Well, meet Robert Wayne Rohde. We'll give him the presumption of innocence. He is 48 years old, but he has been charged with invasion of privacy after he admitted that he installed a camera in the room of a 14-year-old female for alleged sexual purposes. Rohde was arrested Thursday evening of last week after sheriff detectives took a report that a hidden camera had been found in the girl's bedroom. It's unclear exactly, but the girl did know Mr. Rohde somehow. A search warrant for Rohde's residence netted evidence pertaining to this investigation, and when interviewed, he admitted that he had placed the camera in the young girl's room. Mr. Rohde is a police officer at the Department of Veteran Affairs healthcare system in Roseburg, Oregon. Additional charges may be forthcoming. We like to bring you the good stories of what police officers do. Sometimes we've got to bring you the facts wherever they may fall. We'll give Mr. Rohde the presumption of innocence, but it doesn't look good for sure. I don't think he'll be wearing a badge much longer. Now, speaking of people doing inappropriate things, as you may all have heard, the Boy Scouts of America has filed for bankruptcy protection. And in that bankruptcy protection plan, they have set aside some $1.3 billion to settle claims. Now, and if you, or if you know of somebody who has been abused while they were in the Boy Scouts of America, you have the ability now to file a potential claim. You can go to crimetalksearch.com BSA, BoyScoutsOfAmerica.com, and fill out the form. That's all you have to do. It's completely confidential. No one else is going to know about it. But if you or you know of somebody who's been involved with inappropriate touching, requesting personal favors or rewards, derogatory sexual or racist comments, unnecessary photographing, that's right, verbal or physical threats, and more, obviously. Go to Crime Talk Search, BSA.com, fill out the form, talk with somebody who can help. Next on the docket, do you remember that case that we talked about a few months ago? It was kind of a big deal, but nobody really thought much about it. It's called the McGirt v. Oklahoma case. It was an opinion issued by the United States Supreme Court on July 9th, 2020. And it had to do with jurisdiction of crimes in eastern Oklahoma related to the Major Crimes Act, which provides that within, quote, Indian country, end quote, any Indian who commits certain enumerated offenses, quote, shall be subject to the same law and penalties as all other persons committing any of those offenses within the exclusive jurisdiction of the United States, end quote. Indian country includes all lands within the limits of any Indian reservation under the jurisdiction of the United States government. Now, through a series of some poorly written treaties and statutes over the years, guess what? There have been issues regarding where people should be tried, state court or federal court. So if somebody has, in fact, Native American ancestry, they should be tried for serious crimes in federal court, not state court. Now, Oklahoma is saying, hey, this is going to be a problem. And, we've always kind of got along with everyone on the reservation. No need in sending everything to the federal courts. The federal courts saying, we don't have time for all those serious crimes. You just let the state do it. But the United States Supreme Court, in some very good legal analysis written by Judge Gorsuch, basically said, you know what? We understand what you guys are trying to say. This is kind of the way we've done it. But guess what? That's not what's in the text of the documents at hand. And there's no ambiguity whatsoever regarding who should have jurisdiction, and that's the United States government. And one of the biggest things that Oklahoma warned about was the potential consequences if the court ruled the way it ultimately did. If you follow a ruling, it'll have such an unsettling and untold number of convictions and frustrating the state's ability to prosecute crimes in the future. Now, the court said, hey, we're aware of the potential for cost and conflict around jurisdictional boundaries, but the court said, Oklahoma and its tribes have proven time and again that they can work successfully together as partners, and Congress remains free to supplement its statutory directions about the lands in question. Basically, what that means is the jurisdiction lies in the federal court. Now, I can tell you, since I am in the 10th Circuit, I receive information about the 10th Circuit. The United States Attorney's Office has hired some 33 new prosecutors in Tulsa so that they can deal with the influx of cases coming this way. Now, here's where it gets interesting. Remember those consequences that you heard about, you thought about? Well, for example, there was a woman who was sentenced to more than 100 years in prison, and she's probably going to be released after serving only 11 years. Now, a jury back in 2009 convicted Kimberly Graham after police say she hit and killed 5 people while driving drunk in 2007. The affidavit shows that Graham hit a group of people who were helping a motorcyclist who had been in an unrelated accident moments before. Now, Graham's 107-year sentence may now be vacated as her attorney has filed for post-conviction relief based upon the McGirt v. Oklahoma ruling, which we just talked about from the Supreme Court, as Graham is Native American, making the case fall under federal jurisdiction. Now, there was a hearing held, and the judge decided to delay the decision as both sides reportedly need more time to submit their arguments to the court. Now, obviously, Ms. Graham's attorney says that he feels procedurally her case is in a very good position, and he says according to Oklahoma statute, she should get due process. It should get dismissed. Now, the prosecutor believes that Ms. Graham has already been given due process, that she was convicted by her peers, saying it didn't matter if it was in state or federal court. The jury has spoken. Well, that's the ultimate issue. And whichever side loses is going to appeal. And if the court decides to throw this conviction out and say it needs to be retried in the United States District Court, guess what? All those witnesses, the victims of the families, all have to come in and go through that gut-wrenching process all over again. But here's where the kicker is. The district attorney is aggressively fighting the post-conviction relief matters for Ms. Graham and other cases where there's similarly situated cases. Why, you say? Because the statute of limitations in federal court will have run out, and therefore the case would ultimately be dismissed in federal court. Now, the judge is going to have a tough decision to make here. However, you've got the United States Supreme Court saying you have no jurisdiction. Jurisdiction can be raised at any time under the law. And here, it would seem like Ms. Graham will have her conviction vacated and then go home because the federal statute of limitations has run. A lot of people may get upset with the Supreme Court, but guess what? As the court noted, not our problem. Our job is simply here to interpret the statute. The statute and treaties were clear. Congress and legislators unable to ever get around to fixing something, and now these are the consequences. So think about that, ladies and gentlemen. You go out and you vote for all your legislators, both state and federal. Think about maybe getting someone with some intelligence, someone that's actually going to be able to write a statute and not have to go under the scrutiny of the court, because it is the legislators, both state and federal, that draft this stuff, and they always mess it up because they don't look at it in the sense of what is legally correct. They try to do what is politically expedient. And now look, all those people that obviously wrote these statutes or didn't do anything about it, they're all here and everyone else is left to clean up their mess. That's why it's so important to elect intelligent legislators. Because I tell you, I've met a couple of them. I'm not sure they could draft a sentence, let alone an entire statute. Next on the docket, subscriber questions, and we have two of them. First, now you may recall we have a audio recording of supposedly Chris Watts speaking to somebody saying how things weren't turned over to him, somehow saying that his due process rights were violated. Don't think it stands a chance. You can look at all my videos over the last couple of weeks. Chris Watts is going nowhere. But one of the questions that came up repeatedly in the comments section is, hey, Scott, what's Brady v. Maryland? Because Chris Watts keeps mentioning Brady. Well, Brady v. Maryland is a 1963 United States Supreme Court case that establishes that the prosecution must turn over all evidence that might exonerate the defendant. That's known as exculpatory evidence, that all has to be turned over to the defense. In the Brady case, the prosecution failed to do so. Mr. Brady was ultimately convicted. Brady challenged his conviction and it went all the way to the United States Supreme Court, and he argued that it had been contrary, his conviction was obtained contrary to the due process clause of the 14th Amendment to the United States Constitution. And the court held that withholding exculpatory evidence does in fact violate due process, with one caveat. That's where the evidence is material to either guilt or to punishment. The Supreme Court determined it was a Maryland case, that the Maryland law, that the withheld evidence could not have exculpated the defendant, but was material to his level of punishment. Thus, the Maryland Court of Appeals ruling was affirmed. Brady would receive a new sentencing hearing, but not a new trial. So every defendant, both in state and federal court, requests Brady disclosures, referring to the holding in the Brady case and the numerous state and federal cases that have interpreted the requirement that the prosecution disclose exculpatory evidence to the defense. That's why the prosecution has to turn over everything. And if you think about it, the cases where people are exonerated 10, 20, 30 years, 40 years later where they've been sitting in custody, what is it usually come down to? A couple of things usually, right? New DNA evidence, which wasn't really available at the time, faulty identification, or third, usually prosecutorial misconduct, which is failing to turn over exculpatory information. Good prosecutors will tell you, I'll give you everything you want, and I'm still going to convict your client. The sleazy ones that know they have a weak case, they're the ones that play games and mess around with turning over the evidence. Bottom line, that's just the way it is. The next question that came up, which I thought was rather intriguing, was, hey, Scott, do you ever talk to juries after they decide a case? No, I don't. And let me tell you why I don't do that anymore. Probably 18, 19 years ago, I was doing a retrial on an attempted murder case. The first trial hung. Now, I didn't do the first trial, but my co-counsel did, but he brought me in to see if we could maybe do something differently. He talked to the jurors, and the jurors got really wrapped around how something could have not taken place in the house because the jacket was somehow pulled over somebody's head in the struggle, and they couldn't have been able to see anything. We didn't think much of it, but somebody on that jury panel did. They were a very strong personality, and in that particular situation, they ultimately resulted in the case hanging, which means the jury could not make a decision on all of the charges. So we retried the case. And taking that information that we learned from the previous jury, guess what? We focused on the jacket, and ultimately, we lost. We talked to the jury afterwards and said, hey, what about our brilliant theory about the jacket being pulled over the head and it couldn't have happened during the struggle? And they said, we just didn't think that was important at all. We really didn't understand where you were going with that. So either the juror in the first case was really nuanced, or the juries in the second case just didn't get it, or maybe we didn't get it. The reality of each jury is different. And I don't want to rely upon what jurors say in one case because each and every case is different. Now, I personally have taken lessons learned and apply those to new cases, but how juries decide, not that interesting. I normally don't like to talk to jurors. I've had jurors reach out to me after the case and want to discuss it, and I, in fact, will discuss it as long as I'm permitted to do so. Only in federal court do you have to seek permission to go talk to jurors. I obviously have no reason to do that. If you win, clearly no reason. If you lose, frankly, it just doesn't matter unless there's some issue that comes up regarding juror misconduct. So hopefully that answers the question. Hopefully you think that was interesting, because it is an interesting question in my humble opinion. All right, next on the docket, our dumb criminal contestant of the day. But first, who was the dumb criminal contestant of the week? That's right. Her name was Stephanie Dowdy. Overwhelmingly the dumb criminal contestant given our tough field of competitors. She was the one, as you may recall, who threw her meth out the window when the police officer was approaching her car for the traffic stop. Needless to say, the officer, when it hit him in the leg, found the drugs and arrested Miss Dowdy. So Miss Dowdy, congratulations. You are a dumb criminal contestant of the week. Now, what does that mean? That's right. You will receive a Crime Talk mug. And we've got a couple of different versions here. And if you want a Crime Talk mug, you can hit the link below and get one yourself. But Miss Dowdy, we're going to track her down and we are going to mail it to her. Why? Because I think she needs something positive in her life right now. And it's certainly not driving without a license and throwing meth out the window. So maybe she could just pour in a nice Red Bull or a good cup of coffee into the Crime Talk mug and avoid those things that get you in trouble. Because there's nothing illegal about a Crime Talk mug. Unless, of course, maybe you throw it at somebody. So please don't do that. All right. Our dumb criminal contestant for the day, starting a clean slate of contestants. Meet James Florent. That's right. Mr. Florent was arrested the other night when he was calling 911. This is not the first time people have been dumb criminal contestants calling 911. But Mr. Florent told the operator repeatedly that he was seeing aliens, and not just any kind of aliens. That's right, little ones flying low to the ground. Now, Mr. Florent told the police that he didn't want to go, quote, Independence Day on them, which is an apparent reference to the movie starring Will Smith, Jeff Goldblum, and Bill Pullman. That was the 1996 film. of an invasion by an alien aircraft and it's repelled, not before Earthlings suffer widespread death and destruction. Now, Mr. Florent is currently locked up on a $500 bond. It's a misdemeanor charge. He does have several charges. We'll give him the presumption of innocence on this one. But my guess is, once again, our dumb criminal contestant of the day may have been using some controlled substances that would maybe be illegal. But in this case, maybe Mr. Florent consumed them and all he had was 911 to talk to. Congratulations, Mr. Florent. You are a dumb criminal contestant of the day. Thanks for watching. We appreciate you getting us to 150,000 subscribers. Don't forget to join us tomorrow night as we go live on both YouTube and Facebook at 6 p.m. Mountain Time. Thanks for watching. We'll see you then.